And now we move into a workshop of the McAllen City Commission held in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. All workshops are open to the public and serve as an opportunity for city staff to present detailed information, reports, and updates to the Commission in preparation for future action or decisions. While no formal votes are taken during these sessions, workshops play an important role in the city's policymaking and decision-making process.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's City Commission workshop. We have a few items. The first is, do we have any questions to staff regarding our upcoming meeting?
No, Mayor.
Anybody? No, if not, we'll go to the second item, presentation and transit update.
Well, Mayor and Commissioners, I think it was last meeting, Commissioners, I'm going to ask for an update on the goings on in the downtown district, and so Mario, Downtown Services, just put together a presentation.
Thank you, Ike. Mayor, members of the Commission, I'm happy to be able to provide an update on the Transit Department here today. So we'll look at the agenda, talk a little bit about where we started as a department of the City of McAllen. We'll go over a little bit about performance and the value of transit. We'll touch on, some of the future things that we're currently working on, as well as some challenges that we're currently facing and will face in the future. So the early stages in the mid-1900s, not 1900s, mid-1990s, the city attempted to pass a sales tax for infrastructure, including public transit, which failed twice. There was a partnership with Interfaith Action, and that led to a successful initiative in 1997 and included transit funding. Just wanted to highlight there was a study done in 2013 that looked at how McAllen came up with or put together a plan to put public transit out there and to build the central station downtown. It was commissioned by the Transit Cooperative Research Program. I'm sharing the link if you guys are interested in reading that. It's a nice read. Talks a little bit about what transpired during that time. 1996, there was a feasibility study, and then in 1997, Valley Metro, which is a department of the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council, began operations of McAllen Express, which was known as the Me Bus back then. It was 5 routes, and they were contracted by the city to run that service. And then the development of Central Station, there was a need that was identified to have a central hub for transportation, both local and inner city. Not sure if you remember, but Greyhound had a bus terminal, a small bus terminal on 16th Street. And then the Mexican operators had offices around Orchard Park, and it was all kind of all over the place. So there was a need for a centralized hub. And so the initial plan called for having the station on the expressway. And so, downtown merchants kind of fought to bring the terminal downtown because they thought it would help business. And so my understanding is it was a contentious debate, and they determined that the downtown site was the best suited for the terminal at the time. And despite the conflicts, they were able to, construct the facility. The facility opened in 2001. In 2005, the city broke away from the LRGVDC and decided to run the transit system, operated directly. And it was then rebranded as McAllen Express Transit, MET. That was in 05 and 06. My stint with the Transit Department started. And then in 2010, we renovated the bus station and renamed the system what it is today, Metro McAllen, with a new logo and the green colors. Going on to performance. So currently we provide approximately 700,000 trips a year. What I could tell you is that we've surpassed our pre-COVID numbers. All of us saw a huge dip in ridership at the time of COVID. The industry as a whole has struggled to get back to pre-COVID numbers. In fact, I think they're right now at 1997 numbers. and we've been able to, with a little bit of growth, been able to surpass our pre-COVID numbers. It's estimated, we estimate that about 60% of our trips are work-related, and that'll have, a tie to economic development. But before I go into that, we have looked at, our Google ratings. We're at 4.3 out of 5 stars with 194 reviews, 82% favorable reviews on Facebook. And then what I can tell you is that so far this year, we've had, 31 complaints for numerous things. That's less than 1% of our trips that we provide, result in a complaint, maybe 0.5%. I think the sentiment is that, our passengers are happy on paratransit, 60 reviews, all 5 stars. Anecdotally, a staff member shared with me that recently a passenger came to the office and thanked them for, keeping them alive. I guess we take that person to dialysis on a regular basis. And so from what we can tell, the public is generally happy with our system. Obviously, we're looking to make improvements. One of the top reasons that we get complaints is reliability. Right now, if a bus leaves the station on time and gets to the station on time, that's our on-time performance. We're in the process of bringing to you here soon an award of contract for a more robust CAT-AVL system. CAT-AVL is computer-aided dispatch that will allow us to get on-time performance to the granular level. So at every stop, it'll tell us you're running a little bit late or you're running early, and so our dispatchers can help manage our system better. And so that's some of the things that we're working on in terms of having better customer service. Transit enhancements. Before that, visitors at Central Station. We currently average about 2.2 million visitors at Central Station, both people using public transit locally and traveling into the interior of the U.S. or into Mexico. So we do have, right now 6 daily departures to Monterrey out of the bus terminal. Sometimes in the summer, when the demand increases, they maybe run sometimes even as much as one time an hour. What I can tell you is that we're working with Mexico and Monterrey to come up with creative ideas for synergies to co-promote their service in McAllen. And, we've got the World Cup that's coming. People are going to try to get to watch some games in Mexico. So they're prepared with resources to accommodate whatever increase in demand that they might have. Transit enhancements, we put out 1.6 million in walkways and amenities since 2023, sidewalks and shelters, and we'll continue to run that program on an annual basis. $5 million in equipment, some of that accounts for new vehicles, and then about $15 million in facilities and infrastructure. As far as economic development, it's estimated that our system accounts for about 11 million in worker productivity, and then the passenger trips that are generated on our system generate 3 million in local spending, for a total of about 14 million in economic activity supported by Metro McAllen. On top of that, we are a member of the emergency management team, and so we were the first to respond during the COVID for the immigrant influx, and as well as a result of the recent flood. We got authorization from FTA to procure 4 high-profile vehicles, so LMTVs. And so we've got 3, 1 on the way, ready to be deployed on a moment's notice to help with high water rescues. So we contribute there as well. Moving on to the future of transit, we'll talk a little bit about our service expansion, which we undertook about 1.5 years ago is when we started. We'll talk a little bit about bus rapid transit and transit-oriented development. Bus rapid transit is it's high-capacity transit. It's kind of a precursor to any rail projects. It takes prioritization to help improve reliability, efficiency. It uses bigger buses. Sometimes you'll see those articulated buses, 60-foot buses. So that's bus rapid transit in a nutshell. And then transit-oriented development is a planning concept that integrates land use and public transit to create pockets of dense, walkable areas that kind of promote economic development. And so, in fact, as a matter of fact, this week we'll have consultants in McAllen looking at our service area. We did get, as part of a competitive grant, we got $1 million to study both BRT and TOD, so that's underway. So we'll get in front of you a few more times within the next 18 months about the progress of that. Part of that will be a substantial amount of outreach to the community, to our riders, non-riders that could potentially benefit from these plans as well. And then ultimately, downtown revitalization. If you can see on the left is a system map prior to our system redesign. We had a total of 7 routes throughout the city of McAllen. Now we have 12 routes that we operate and a microtransit system, an on-demand system on Northwest McAllen. If you recall, the reason that we are operating microtransit in Northwest McAllen, we had a route that was going to A&M, but as a result of COVID and because it was underperforming, we suspended the route. And microtransit is a little bit more efficient way to run transit in an area where we're still trying to determine what the best route is. But we felt that we couldn't do away with service to A&M in Northwest McAllen. So that was the premise behind that. And so as you can see, we're at 12 routes. We're looking to be closer to 18 vehicles in maximum service before the end of the year. That incorporates a circulator downtown. Doing that will allow us to further invest in the downtown area through transit funds. And then we're adding service in some routes to have 30-minute headways instead of an hour. So that's in the works right now. We're working to hire additional drivers. Now, the next couple slides are for illustration purposes only. Just kind of wanted to share what's in our brain about bus rapid transit and transit-oriented development in the future. And again, we'll provide you regular updates on how the plan is going.
We've already received federal grant money.
I'm sorry?
We've received or been recipients of federal grant money that specifically allocates for BRT studies and all that?
Yes, so we did receive, like I said, $1 million for the BRT and TOD study. Now, the premise behind BRT and TOD is there has to be a certain density on a corridor to be able to support the investment. There's a substantial investment. Just as an example, Waco did a study, and they were looking to implement BRT. They got sticker shock. It was about a $40 million investment, 10 of which was local, right? So I want to make sure that we're, kind of aware of what that type of investment is. But because of that, you also need to have a feasibility study that supports the investment into that type of service, right? So that's what we're working towards.
Very well.
Again, an illustration of what, our North Hub could look like if there was, transit-oriented development and BRT in the area. McAllen Airport. In front of the airport in Wichita. And then we talked about downtown revitalization. We did put together a grant, and the commission approved the submission of a grant, a $9 million grant with a $1 million local investment to fund improvements downtown. We envision a more walkable downtown with wider streets, maybe some bike share, and the trolley there for illustration of our circulator downtown.
When would we get a response?
I think latter part of June, we'll know if we get that funding. Regardless, having the circulator downtown will allow us to use other pockets of money to invest in the downtown, which is ultimately the plan.
But at the very end, we need density.
Well, we need density, but the one of the challenges is what do we invest in, right? I mean, we're a car-centric state in Texas, and we continue to expand roads and build highways. In my experience, the talk of investing more on transit versus highways was taboo. I think the narrative is starting to change a little bit, and that's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to do. I mean,
I think we have, once we had adopted the UDC. something, we have people against it, and it makes it a little difficult to do. And so how do we convince people to apartments and condos? Traffic is always going to be horrible unless our people modernize it.
Well, I think that you're correct. Our area was not used to any type of transit of any magnitude, but more and more, I believe that we are going to get more. People are using Ubers and Lyfts a lot more. People are not willing now, or are considering not having a vehicle and be able to move in this area. And I believe a transit system like ours will grow. I think we should keep investing in it.
I mean, what I'd like to be able to do is come back again. Like I said, we talk about this study that we've commissioned. We'll come back and we'll get feedback and try and find a way to sell it to the community. But also, one of our challenges is funding. My tenure with the city, we've seen a slight increase in state funding for transportation, for public transportation. Our biggest funder is Federal Transit Administration. 4% of our budget comes from the state. And so one of my responsibilities as a member of a Texas Transit Association or State Association for Transit is I'm spearheading a committee that's going to work with a consultant to try and figure out how to best sell transit to elected officials across the state, to the Transportation Commission, so that they increase the investment in transit. I mean, that's what it's going to take, seeing the value. So one of the things that as an industry I think we've not been able to do is sell the value of transit. And so that's one of the focal points right now in the next biennium for.
I think we know the value of transit, but I don't think our people know the value of transit. What's the utilization of the parking right?
In the new one? In terms of people parking there, not so much right now. We see people dropping off their kids there because we do have a route originating there going to UTRGV, and that thing is packed every day. And we do see parents dropping their kids off there, but in terms of utilization of parking there right now, it's not yet been fully utilized.
I'd love to. I remember back in the days in Houston, I mean, it was utilized, but of course that's totally different. That was Houston. It was always packed, and we'd get into the other one and let's go. Something we definitely need. I'm not saying let's stop, let's anything. We definitely need it. If we're gonna one way or another fight traffic congestion, it's gonna be through this.
I would recommend that we do some social media campaigns. We're able to at least publicize the routes that we have and see how they can use it and plan accordingly ahead of time so they can use it. That's one of the points I wanted to make. The other thing is how many stops do we have?
Roughly 400.
400. Of those 400, how many are covered?
About 100. Right. So we have in the works about 15 more shelters this year before the end of the fiscal year.
50?
15.
15.
Yeah, 15.
But they're expensive and people don't use them. It's just a spot.
Right.
Yeah.
And the maintenance.
Yeah. So we have to put science to it, right?
That's
So
the
what we
ones that are mostly used.
Yeah, that's what we do. We set we set parameters as to what the usage based on certain usage, 15 plus per day lightings or boardings per day would potentially trigger us to look at putting infrastructure there, because it's not only the shelter. We have to make sure that we have right of way. We have to make sure that we put. Yeah, it's something that we are working on, and so we'll continue to budget for shelters and sidewalks. Right now we're working on 23rd. We'll bring you a authorization to award a contract. We're working on solicitation for concrete work for specifically for transit, so we'll have a contract in place.
The case in point that Commissioner Rowley alludes to is the one stop that I've been talking about for 2 terms now. It's on the west side of Ware Road,
Pecan.
immediately west from HEB. And I understand that there may be a right-of-way restriction, but I know that there's 4 or 5 old ladies. They're always there with their bags.
I
and
don't.
more.
I completely agree with you. In fact, they put a log there so they can sit there. Yes, we need to put a shelter there. It's at the top of our list.
Yeah.
We are going to need potentially an easement from STC. I know there's some
Right.
construction there, so.
So I was very happy to see it was a public entity that took over, not a private one, because hopefully over time, it's a little bit easier to work with because they're servicing students that probably would end up using the bus anyway.
Yeah, so I'll work on.
The other thing that Commissioner Rowley also alluded to, so I'm just kind of writing off your coattails, and I'm very glad you brought it up, is do we have any present public transport awareness campaigns? And if not, do we plan to do that more again in the future?
Right, so one of the things, again, we're doing that study, and there's going to be a lot of outreach opportunities there. On top of that, we're going to bring a firm to help us with messaging, putting out messaging to the public. So that'll be, we're going to do that in conjunction with the development of that study to get people to know the system, know what we're doing for the future, and attract, some of those non-traditional riders.
And then the other issue, I'm sorry, I got 3 more questions. I already had it here.
Commissioner, before we leave that point, just because 2 of you have brought it up, MCN is in the process of working on a whole new guide for putting PSAs, information out, and is preparing to do a better job of supporting departments and putting that messaging together. We're in the final stages of putting that together. We've rolled some initial comments out to the directors, and we're going to bring you a whole revamped program in the next month or so. So that message we hear loud and clear, and we're working on that. Just wanted to make sure you knew we were already ahead of it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't want to forget.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for raising that. Attrition of bus drivers, has that been remediated? I know that's kind of addresses the second bullet point on growth and recruitment.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that. First and foremost, on behalf of the department, I'm sure I speak for the citywide staff. Thank you so much for the comp study, for authorizing the city manager to roll it out the way that they did. I can tell you that we've had a lot more success in getting potential drivers to apply to the job postings compared to before. It's helped reduce our attrition. A lot of times drivers left because of getting better pay somewhere else. So that's also, we've seen a decrease in that. Anecdotally, I can tell you that some of the drivers that have left for monetary purposes have been calling and being like, hey, can we come back? So certainly has helped. I think the comp study, the higher rate of pay for drivers has helped tremendously to attract and then retain.
You have vacancies right now?
We do, but we have much less than we've ever had before. So I think in order to get to full staff, we need five more. We were running about 10 drivers short. Right now we're about 4 or 5. So cut that in half.
So my last question is before the revamp of the additional routes when we went from 7 to 12. I mean, where my mom lives or where our restaurant is on North 23rd and Mona, I would have to wait an hour for the next bus if I missed it, right? It was always at the bottom of the hour. So I could walk from there to McAllen in less than 45 minutes rather than wait for the next bus stop. And I remember one of the things with the new North Transit Terminal was to reduce that. And of course, we had an increase in routes. So I don't know, because I'll admit, I've not gotten on the bus in the last 4 years. Has the wait time been adjusted so that, I'm not saying all the routes, but at least some of the ones that are core to the city or near city center, been reduced to where it's at least 20-minute wait rather than the full hour?
That is the next step in the rehab or the kind of redesign of our system, is adding a second bus to service to decrease it to 20 minutes.
It goes without saying, you know this, the more frequent the stops are, the more regular the people can depend on it. So even if they miss it, they don't have to sit or wait. or walk for an hour, right? They
Yeah,
can
so-
just wait another 10 minutes.
So that's the next step that was approved by the commission to add drivers, and right now we're in the process of launching that.
And of course, with that saying, I know we need more bus equipment because you can't be running every 20 minutes if you don't have more buses to meet that metric.
I'll touch on that in just 1 second.
Okay.
Before I go there, one of the things that we need to do is maximize local resources, local revenues. So with the blessing of the commission, I'd like to explore, actually advertising on the rear of the buses, not on the sides. We want to be able to keep our branding. We currently do it in-house. We have a lot of our city events and stuff like that advertised in the rear of the buses. We'd like to be able to capture some revenue. Obviously, we'd come back with, authorization to award a contract for that. But I think that'll help us secure some additional revenues as we continue to grow, maximize our revenues. And then on top, resources. So part of the process of the budget every year is look at, our needs for the next fiscal year, but also, 5 years beyond. As we, saw the need for additional buses, some of our fleet is becoming of age to get replaced. The cost of a new bus right now is $850,000. Right before COVID, we got them for $380. Middle of COVID, latter part of COVID, close to $600. So now they're at $850. And fortunately, the city's not had to invest in equipment. We've been able to get 100% federal funding with transportation development credits. But even then, we only have so much of that federal money to go around. So one of the items that's on the agenda is the approval to rehab one of our existing buses. We found funding for one vehicle, and it goes to a company in California, and they completely rehab it to like new condition for about $320,000. So for the price of one bus, we can almost get 3 of our existing fleet, to like new capacity. So we're exploring that as an option to be able to keep up with the resources if we don't get,
When you say like new, you mean engines or interior or what?
They'll redo the engine, rebuild the engine, transmission, they'll redo the flooring, and so it'll look like new. And you can run it for another 10 years in like new condition. Again, this is an exploratory
Isn't it
project for us.
micro-transit or what was that? What is that?
Microtransit. So microtransit is on-demand service. We use small vehicles to cover a greater area.
And why don't we utilize more of those just throughout? Because if the use isn't there for a lot of the routes, or maybe it is, I'm not sure. But a lot of times I see the buses and I don't see much use.
Well, we could certainly look at microtransit in other areas of low usage. What I could tell you is microtransit shouldn't be a long-term solution because you're using a small vehicle, smaller capacities, and you're going to end up with, similar amount of vehicles on the road versus having a fixed route system. We can look at other areas for
No, but what
micro.
I mean is smaller vehicles and replacing the bigger ones.
The problem with that is the wear and tear on the smaller, because we've been there. When I first started, we called them Frankensteins. There were some buses that had a chassis with a body that were not designed for the stop and go and weight loads of public transit, and we had a lot of issues. I understand that could be a solution, but from my experience, those buses are not made for public transit, for that type of service.
Any other questions?
Mario, thank you so much. I think a lot of us here have been very big proponents of public transit, certainly as our community and the communities around us. Certainly the route, I think it's 9 or 10 that goes from our transit terminal to UTRGV is a very good progressive step because I've been on that route a couple of times, some years back, and you're absolutely right. It is packed in the morning and it's packed in the afternoon, and it brings a smile to me because now we're bringing people who don't have a vehicle. Rather than spend $500 on a car payment, they can use that for rent, they can use that for food and other things, but it's only $1 to get it at Edinburgh.
Well, especially with price of gas.
Oh, yeah, and we don't know how long.
I don't know if anybody has a crystal ball, but what I've read is that all of 2026, it might peak in May, but, there's, yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's where you start looking at other cities to draw it, so we have a stronger city core, like the mayor refers to, more density, right, to support more routes, more frequency, maybe like the BRT, you know, to support that. You know, and who knows, maybe one of the routes that goes to your tribute gets extended and goes around the courthouse, because I guarantee you, there'll be one rider on that one at 6:30 in the morning.
Playing commission and lead by example.
Mario, question. Have you ever thought of putting like the ones the metro, the ones on the south side are they're just painted black, you know, regular. Have you ever thought of putting the city of McAllen emblem on it?
On the shelters?
Yeah, they look kind of plain. That's why I'm asking. You know, I was
We
passing there
could.
yesterday. Maybe a nice in the middle, just a city emblem.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that.
Go back to that comment you said
Yeah, more-
about advertising on the vehicles. I don't know where we're gonna go with that later, but I do like to see for our city, our events that are coming up. I do love to see McAllen, parade, Christmas parade, all the things that come along. If possible, if we do decide to go that route, that only a fraction would be.
It would be at the wish of the commission. We'll certainly bring it back before we do anything.
Excellent. There's no other questions. We'll recess into executive session. Okay, we're back and we're done with the workshop. Perlita, we have no.
Workshop of the McAllen City Commission. Workshops are held on the second and fourth Monday of each month at 4 p.m. in the City Commission chamber, located on the third floor of McAllen City Hall. The public is always welcome to attend or view online. Thank you for staying informed and engaged with the City of McAllen. And now from McAllen City Hall, a meeting of the McAllen City Commission.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's City Commission meeting. Actually, we have a joint meeting, but we'll call this meeting to order.
I call a meeting in order for the McAllen Public Utility Board. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Okay, and we'll go with Mike. Are we doing the pledge and everything or later on?
We can do that now, and
Yes.
Mayor, if you want to come back for the proclamations after the joint meeting, we can do that.
No, you know what? Let's